What's going on, everyone? It's Chris Itwa again, coming at y'all with another movie discussion video. And today we're going to be talking about the recent developments regarding Star Wars Episode 9. Obviously, there's been a ton of stuff, well, big developments regarding that movie within the last week. So I wanted to go ahead and get my thoughts on it. And let's go ahead and get started by talking the fact that this movie had its director fired about a week ago. A week ago, September 5th. Director Colin Trevorrow, he was attached to the project, but Lucasfilm, they say creative differences were the reason that they pretty much fired him from the project. They say due to creative differences, but I think there was more to it to that. He's left the project, and that left the movie without a director. And just to talk about Colin Trevorrow, is that I did not think he was a good choice for Star Wars Episode 9 to begin with. I mean, this is a guy who got his claim to fame starting off with a smaller film called Safety Guaranteed. Never saw it, but it got great reviews. Then he directed Jurassic World, which Jurassic World is not the type of movie that you can praise for its directing or writing. I think it's an okay movie. But for him to get Star Wars Episode 9 based on that movie, yeah, it made a lot of money, but Star Wars, it needs more than a director that can bring in a whole lot of money. So I never thought he was a good choice for that. And then once the Book of Henry got panned, that's the film that came out early this year that he directed. I just thought that, man, I would not be surprised if they canned him from this project, especially given the fact that earlier this summer they had already canned the directors for the Han Solo spinoff, Chris Lord and Phil Miller. They canned them in favor of Ron Howard due to creative differences once again. So I wasn't surprised that Trevorrow got canned, although I do have to say that Kathleen Kennedy, president of Lucasfilm, I don't think this is a great look for Lucasfilm and the Star Wars sort of a creative team. Now, I don't want to be too critical of her because she went to the same college I went to, San Diego State University. Shout out to the Aztecs. I don't want to be too hard on her for that reason, but for Lucasfilm, it's not really a good look. But obviously, at this time, they've already found a director to replace Mr. Trevorrow for Episode 9. And that news came out a few days ago that J.J. Abrams, who of course directed The Force Awakens, is coming back to direct Star Wars Episode 9 after taking a break with Episode 8 being directed by Ryan Johnson. And to be honest, I've got mixed feelings about this news of J.J. Abrams returning. Now, I have to say that it's probably the logical choice at this point because you got to have someone who's in house to really sort of come in and really right the ship. I mean, it'd be a lot to ask a director who was outside the Star Wars family to say, okay, now here's all the pressure to tie up this new sequel trilogy that we've been planning out. So to bring in someone who was in house and worked with Lucasfilm before is a smart idea. But just J.J. Abrams regarding what he did with The Force Awakens. I never did. I haven't done a review on The Force Awakens. Obviously, I only started doing reviews in 2016, the end of 2016. So for The Force Awakens, is that I think The Force Awakens is a solid movie. In fact, I think it's a good movie. Upon the rewatches that I've had over the past year or so, I think that it does a good job with the characters. They did a good job. JJ did a good job with the direction, making it feel like the previous, the original trilogy of films. I think the film's fun. The visuals are done good. It's a good movie. In fact, for the first, I'd say 2/3 of the movie, I'd say the film is great. I thought it was just great, classic Hollywood filmmaking. But the problem with JJ, and I think the problem that everyone who does have problems with The Force Awakens, is that the movie was a rehash, is a big rehash of A New Hope. Now, like I said, there were elements through the first 2/3 of the movie, like the parallels with Rey and Luke Skywalker being on a desert planet. I mean, yeah, those are some parallels you can see, but it wasn't really too big a problem for me. I mean, that's just the nature of what these characters are. So that wasn't the problem for me. The problem is when he got to that final third of the movie and he completely remade um, A New Hope's final battle. The whole thing of gathering together, let's make plans to destroy this big ass Death Star. Let's have a trench scene and let's blow up the Death Star again. And to me, JJ, his direction when it came to that, and you know what? I'll blame him and the whole creative team behind them, although specifically JJ because he directed and wrote part of the movie. it was just way too safe. And that's why I think The Force Awakens has sort of the reputation that it has now, in that for it to be 28 plus years later to write a new Star Wars movie, and to have a third act the way that the third act of the film was, just not good. Now, like I said, it's still a good movie, but for JJ to do that to that movie, just not good, not good. And really, it's the one thing that really holds that movie back for me. I still think it's a good movie, but not a big fan of what he did there. But the thing is, so going forward, what I really hope that they do is that you got to hope that JJ, he's learned his lessons from The Force Awakens. I'm sure fans have not gone easy on letting them know, yo, man, that movie was a big rehash, and that I hope that he applies that criticism to Episode 9. He seems like the type of guy that wouldn't stick his head in the sand and say, no, 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 this movie's perfect. No, they'd listen, because Lucasfilm is smart to know that they got to learn from those lessons from The Force Awakens, even though it was incredibly successful. I mean, the freaking movie made almost $1 billion in the U.S. alone, so not like it wasn't a financial success with Episode 9, the sequel trilogy. I mean, you got to have a home run hit, and it's got to be something different. And to talk about where the Star Wars universe is at right now, I'm super looking forward to The Last Jedi. I think that movie looks incredible, looks really, really well directed. But my fear for that movie is that, you see, The Force Awakens was a remake practically of A New Hope. And this movie, even though I love that trailer from a few months ago, and the movie looks great, looks dark, I really hope that movie is not a remake of an Empire Strikes Back, and maybe my fears will end up coming true, just because the whole setup for that movie is pretty much Empire Strikes Back. So that's bad. And I really, really hope, to get to the crux of this video, is that they do not do a remake of Return of the Jedi. Because if that ends up happening with episodes 8 and 9, to me, that's a huge fail for this new Star Wars sequel trilogy. Because for all these years later, for you to just do a rehash of those previous films, not good at all. Not good at all. And for episode 9, the final thing I'll say is that I think, from the looks of how episode 8 looks, I would have liked to have seen Ryan Johnson maybe come back, because to me, he could continue the momentum. If The Last Jedi is as great as everyone hopes it is, and as it does look, it would have been great if he could finish the series off. But I think that the fool just needed a break after directing a huge ass Star Wars film, because they did offer it to him, but he turned it down, and I think it was just because he was exhausted. So with JJ having basically 2 years off from the whole Star Wars production project, I think that's why he ultimately was fine with coming back, and I hope he does well, because like I said, I do like The Force Awakens, but I definitely don't want to see him repeat the mistakes that he made with that movie. And if it does end up being, like I said, if Episode 9 ends up being like Return of the Jedi, huge fail right there. But anyways, those are my thoughts on the recent developments regarding Star Wars Episode 9. Hope y'all enjoyed this video. Look out for, I'll probably end up doing a full review of The Force Awakens before The Last Jedi comes out. So look out for that within the next 2 months or so. And I will see y'all around with another video.